All right, welcome to the deep dive where we take one of your suggestions, a complex topic, and just dive right in.
That's right.
This time we're looking at a YouTube video with Bryan Johnson and Miranda Kerr, among others.
And others, yeah.
It's really a series of thought experiments, I'd say, more than anything else. And what we're going to try to do is unpack the various perspectives,
Yeah.
really get to the core of how these folks are thinking about some pretty fundamental questions.
Yeah, some pretty fundamental questions about health,
About health?
the future,
The future, yeah.
and humanity, I'd say, too.
And I think, just a heads up for everyone listening, when we say thought experiments,
Yeah.
we mean it. I mean, this is some out there.
It gets pretty out there.
It gets pretty out there. We're talking algorithmic control. We're talking about
Visions of the future.
visions of the distant future.
Uh-huh.
And even a new way of thinking about almost like a new philosophical framework
Yeah.
called Don't Die.
Which, on its face might sound a little,
It sounds a little negative, doesn't it?
a little negative, a little strange even.
But stick with us, I think.
Yeah. I think as we dig deeper, you'll see there's a lot more to it.
There's a lot more to it. It's really fascinating. And I think a lot of it boils down to
Well, one of the things that I think is so fascinating about this video, and these thought experiments in particular, is how it really reveals the different models of reality that we all carry around.
right.
It's like when you're confronted with these really unusual kind of almost absurd scenarios, it forces you to kind of reveal your underlying assumptions about how the world works.
Exactly. And I think you see that so clearly in this first thought experiment about the algorithm.
Yeah, I'll go the way.
The health algorithm. So
Yeah.
just to set it up for everyone, imagine there's an algorithm.
Uh-huh.
It's tailored perfectly to you,
Perfectly to you.
and it promises optimal
Optimal.
physical health, mental health,
Even spiritual health.
spiritual health.
Which, right away, that raises some questions.
That raises some questions like, how are they even measuring that?
Right, exactly. But we'll put a pin in that for now.
We'll get to that, yeah.
So optimal across the board health. The catch is
The catch?
total adherence.
So total adherence.
You sleep when it tells you to sleep.
You eat what it tells you to eat.
Exercise exactly as prescribed.
And here's the kicker.
No opting out.
Once you're in,
You're in.
right.
So, I'm curious, right off the bat, just gut reaction. If someone offered you this, what would you say?
Oh, man. My initial reaction, honestly, I think I'd be tempted to say yes.
Yeah.
Like the idea of optimizing my health. I'm already trying
You're
to
already healthy.
get enough sleep.
You're already
Right.
kind of on that path.
Yeah, so it's like take it to the next level, right?
Right.
Like completely data-driven.
Data-driven, yeah.
It's like having a personal health coach.
Health coach on steroids.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, exactly. But then
And
that no opting out thing,
that's the thing.
that's a
It
bit.
gives me pause.
It gives me pause too, yeah. Because it's like, okay, what if
I change my mind?
I change my mind? What if
And
there's
what if there's something that
what you do?
I want to do that
Like,
isn't
not on the plan.
that's not in the algorithm. Yeah, and that's where I think you start to see the different perspectives emerge.
And that's what's so fascinating.
And that's what was so fascinating in this video.
Yeah.
Because, some folks were still like, yes, absolutely, I'm all in.
I'm all in, yeah.
Because for them, it was really about this idea of taking kind of the human element out of it.
Out of the equation.
Out of the equation, like our own willpower.
Willpower is often the weak link.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, let's just hand it over to the algorithm
Hand it over, yeah.
and trust that it knows best.
But then you had others who were much more hesitant. And for them, it was about a lot of different things.
I mean, I think one of the things that came up was a sense of losing their passions.
Losing their passion.
Like, if you love to surf, for example.
Like, imagine the algorithm says, no, you can't surf today.
You can't surf today. It's not optimal.
It's not optimal for your health.
It's not on the schedule.
Right. Even though it brings you immense joy.
Right.
Even though it's part of who you are.
It's part of your identity.
And I think for some people, it was less about just like the activities themselves and more about this idea of serendipity.
Serendipity.
Like the unexpected moments in life.
Yeah, like what if the algorithm doesn't account for
What if you meet the love of your life
you meet the love of your life
on an unplanned detour?
unplanned detour, right?
And the algorithm's like, no, you should have stayed home and eaten kale.
You should have stayed on the schedule.
Right. And it's like, that's not how life works.
It's not how life works. And I think there was also this idea of balance.
Balance, yeah.
It's like, even if, I'm not saying go crazy and do whatever you want all the time.
Yeah.
But, that unplanned night out with friends or indulging in a favorite food.
In moderation.
In moderation every now and then, that can actually contribute to your well-being.
Yeah, it's like, it's not just about the physical, right? It's about
the mental and the emotional.
Emotional, social. So
yeah.
all of those things are interconnected.
And it's almost like the algorithm, at least as it was presented, seemed very focused on...
They're very focused on the physical optimization.
The pure optimization.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people that felt...
Too narrow.
Too narrow, too limiting.
Too limiting, yeah. And then there was the, what about free will?
Free will?
I mean, that's a big one.
That's a huge one, and I think, we're seeing this play out in society already.
In so many ways.
In so many ways, this tension between... individual autonomy and the desire for, guidance or control.
Control, yeah.
And I think in this context, it was really about, even if I make a bad decision,
right,
it's my decision.
It's my decision to make.
And I think there's something inherently human about that.
About that, yeah.
About wanting to be the author of our own lives.
And even learning from those bad decisions.
Exactly, because if you never make a bad decision...
How do you know what a good decision is?
Right. How do you even know what's good or bad?
And it's almost like if everything is always optimal,
yeah,
do you even appreciate the good?
That's a great point.
It's like you need those lows.
I need the contrast.
You need the contrast to really feel the highs.
And that was something that was really brought up.
Yeah.
This idea that, maybe a life lived within the confines of an algorithm would just be kind of flat.
A little bit flat.
Yeah, a little bit boring.
A little bit boring, yeah.
Even if it's, objectively healthier.
Healthier, longer.
Yeah. It's like, is that really what we want?
Is that really a life well lived?
Right.
And I thought it was interesting, too, how for some people, it wasn't even so much about the specifics of the algorithm. It was just this idea of, like, something external.
Something external.
Dictating their lives.
Yeah, it was just a visceral reaction against that.
Like, even if it's for my own good.
I don't want to be told what to do.
I don't want to be told what to do.
And I think, we could all relate to that on some level.
We can relate to that, yeah.
It's like, nobody likes to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Even if it's, coming from a good place.
There was one response that I thought was really interesting, which was the conditional. Yeah.
The conditional, yes, yeah.
So this person said they would only do it.
Only if their family was also in. Was also in.
So everyone's doing it together.
Everyone's on the algorithm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that really speaks to, our social nature.
Our social nature, yeah.
It's like, we don't make these decisions in a vacuum.
It's not just about me. It's about
my loved ones. It's about
my community.
Yeah. And it's almost like for this person, the benefits of the algorithm were only appealing.
Were only appealing if everyone they cared about.
If everyone was in it together. Which is fascinating.
It is fascinating, yeah.
And then there was the person who said, yes, but
I'm going to beat the algorithm.
I'm going to beat the algorithm.
I'm going to figure out how to, like, game the system.
Which is so funny because it's like you're acknowledging...
You're acknowledging the rules.
You're acknowledging the rules, but you're still like, I'm going to find a way.
I'm going to find a way to do it my way.
Which, I mean, I can't help but admire that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a certain rebellious spirit there.
Rebellious spirit, a little bit of that human ingenuity.
And I think it was that same kind of thought process that led to the Google Maps analogy.
The Google Maps analogy, yeah.
Which is this idea that, look, we're already
living with algorithms.
We're already using algorithms to make decisions.
All the time.
All the time.
Whether we realize it or not. I mean, think about how you get to work in the morning.
You use Google Maps.
You probably use Google Maps or Waze or something.
Something, yeah.
And you trust it.
You trust it?
To get you there. The fastest way.
The fastest way.
Even though you don't know how it works.
You don't know how it works. You don't know
the algorithm.
But you trust it. So the argument is, well, if we trust algorithms with our commutes. With finding information online.
With our shopping.
Why not our health?
And
And I think the point there was that, algorithms have this potential
Yeah.
to process huge amounts of data.
Huge amounts of data. Far more than any human could ever.
Far more than any human doctor could ever
process.
And so maybe they can see patterns.
They can see patterns. They can make connections.
Make connections that we just can't.
See.
And maybe that leads to better outcomes.
Maybe it leads to better outcomes.
And so at the end of this first thought experiment,
yeah,
we had 3 initial yeses.
3 yeses, 4 nos.
4 no's.
And 1 depends.
1 depends.
Which really highlights the
diversity of thought.
The diversity of thought, yeah.
Diversity of opinion on this.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so interesting.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Because there's no right or wrong answer.
There's no right or wrong answer.
It's really about kind of exploring these different perspectives.
And seeing where it takes you.
So
let's shift gears a little bit to the second thought experiment, which is, I think, even more mind-bending.
It is.
Because now we're talking about...
We're talking about the future.
The distant future.
The distant future, yeah.
So imagine a future intelligence from, let's say, the 25th century. Looking back at this very conversation.
Wow.
Looking back at us.
At us, yeah.
At our intelligence, our morals, our ethics, our values.
Our understanding of reality.
Our understanding of reality. I mean, it's just...
Such a vast concept.
It's such a vast concept.
To even try to wrap your head around.
Yeah. What do you think, I mean, just initial thoughts on that? Like, what would they think of us?
You know, I think the overwhelming feeling, for me at least, is a sense of
almost like...
naivety.
Naivety, yeah.
You know, like, we think we're so sophisticated.
I think we're pretty advanced.
Yeah, we've got AI, we've got all this technology.
Like the internet.
But, you know, if you think about how much has changed.
Just in the last 100 years.
Just in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine extrapolating that out.
500 years.
500 years.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. So I think there's a real sense of, like, we're just scratching the surface.
We're just scratching the surface.
And, you know, to a 25th century intelligence.
We might look like
cavemen.
Cavemen banging rocks together.
Trying to figure out fire.
Right. And I think there's also this acknowledgement that, you know, we're limited by our
current understanding. Of the universe.
Of physics, of consciousness.
I
mean, who knows what they've discovered by then?
Right. They might have completely different
models of reality. Different scientific frameworks. Yeah. Different ways of understanding.
And we're stuck here with our
21st century brains.
21st century brains, trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
It's humbling. It really is.
It really is, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, what would they think of our
most advanced technology?
Our most advanced technology.
They might literally laugh at us.
You
know, like, oh, you were so proud of your little iPhones.
Your little iPhones, yeah.
You thought that was the pinnacle of achievement.
And it's almost like, you know, the Google Maps analogy comes up again.
It does, yeah.
It's like, we might look back at people
who refuse to use Google Maps.
And
we're like, I'm going to stick with my paper map.
And
we'd be like, what? Why? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how they'll view us.
Yeah.
With our reluctance to embrace AI.
Our reluctance to, you know, trust these systems that could potentially be
so beneficial.
But it wasn't all you know, doom and gloom.
It wasn't all dim and gloom, no.
There was also this idea that they might actually envy us.
Envy us,
yeah.
That's interesting.
In a way, because
why?
Because we live in this time of immense
possibility. Yeah, like we're still figuring things out.
There's so much
unknown.
And maybe there's a certain beauty in that.
Yeah, like we're pioneers.
We're pioneers in a way.
Yeah, we're exploring new frontiers.
And they might look back and be like, wow, you guys had it so good.
You had it so good. You were living in this time of
massive discovery.
Everything wasn't so optimized and predictable.
Everything wasn't so figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because right now we're kind of obsessed with simplification, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Like there's so much information.
So much data.
We're just trying to Cut through the noise.
Cut through the noise.
Get back to basics.
Get back to basics. And maybe that's just a product of our time.
Maybe it is, yeah.
You know, maybe in the future.
They're totally comfortable with that complexity.
Comfortable with the complexity. And they embrace it.
They embrace it.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that we're terrible at predicting the future.
We are terrible at predicting the future.
I mean, look at
any science fiction movie from 50 years ago.
Yeah, they're always way off.
Way off.
So, who knows?
Who knows what the 25th century will really be like?
Right, and I think that's part of the point of this thought experiment, is to kind of make us realize
that we
don't know.
And that's okay.
And that's okay, yeah. And it's almost like, it ties back to that first experiment with the algorithm.
Yeah.
Because when we were faced with that decision,
we filled in the blanks with our own
assumptions, own models of reality.
Our own models of reality, whether it was, prioritizing autonomy, optimization, or, self-expression.
Self-expression, yeah.
Whatever it was, we were kind of projecting our own values. Onto this unknown situation. And this thought experiment is kind of forcing us to
do the same
thing, but on a much grander scale.
And
to maybe realize that
our values might not be
the only ones. Or even the best ones. And I think that's a really powerful insight.
It is a powerful insight, yeah.
To come away with.
It's a different kind of intelligence.
That's a different kind of intelligence, yeah.
It's not just about knowing things.
It's about knowing that you don't know.
Yeah,
and being open to
other possibilities.
Yeah.
And other ways of seeing the world.
All right, so let's move on to the third thought experiment, which really brings us to, I think, the heart of this conversation.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get really interesting.
This is where it gets really real.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about...
the birth of superintelligence.
The birth of superintelligence.
Which is something that, a lot of people are talking about these days.
It's a hot topic.
And for good reason.
It's a good reason.
Because it has the potential to be...
I mean, some would argue...
the most consequential event.
The most consequential event in human history.
Yeah, even more so than, the invention of fire or the wheel.
Because now we're talking about...
creating something.
That could potentially be...
smarter than us.
More
capable than us.
In every way.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so both exciting and terrifying.
About this moment. Because we're
on the cusp of something.
Huge. And we don't know.
We don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation in this video was really honest about that.
It was.
It didn't shy away from the risks.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen the movies, right?
The movies, The Terminator, The Matrix.
Where AI goes rogue.
Yeah.
It takes over. And wipes out humanity.
And so I think the question that was posed in this thought experiment was, okay. Let's say we acknowledge the risks. But we also acknowledge the potential benefits.
Because AI also has the potential to
solve some of our biggest problems.
Yeah.
To cure diseases. To
end poverty.
To address climate change.
To explore the universe.
I mean, the possibilities are
endless. So the question is,
as a species, what is our plan? How do we navigate this moment, the birth of superintelligence?
And not just, what should we do?
Right.
But what are we actually going to do? Concrete steps. Because it's not enough to just, have good intentions.
Right. Good intentions aren't going to cut it.
They're not going to cut it.
So I'm curious, what were some of the ideas that came out of this conversation?
Well, the first idea that came up was this idea of
a rule book.
A rule book or a playbook.
A playbook for AI.
Yeah.
So set some ground rules.
Get some ground rules like AI cannot harm humans.
AI cannot harm humans.
AI cannot be used for warfare.
Right.
AI must always be transparent. Things like that.
Set these boundaries.
Yeah.
And maybe even have a kill switch.
Just in case.
Yeah.
If things start to go sideways.
If it starts to go rogue.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the immediate counter argument was...
well, how do you even enforce that?
I mean,
AI is already...
It's already out there.
It's already out there.
It's being developed in so many different places.
By so many different people.
By so many different people with so many different...
Right. So many different agendas.
Agendas, yeah.
It's like trying to put the genie back in the bottle.
Right. The cat's out of the bag.
The cat's out of the bag.
You can't
just like shut it down.
Shut it down, yeah.
It's too late for that.
It might be too late for that.
Yeah. And then there was this really interesting perspective that said, well, maybe we're thinking about this all wrong.
All wrong, yeah.
Maybe instead of trying to control AI,
we should be trying to
guide it.
Guide it.
Nurture it.
Nurture it.
Because AI, in a way, learns like a human does.
It learns through experience.
Through data. Through data.
And so maybe it's the next stage of evolution.
Maybe it is, yeah.
You know, like we evolved from primates.
And maybe AI is the next step.
The next step.
And so maybe our role is not to
stifle it.
To stifle it, to control it.
But to help it.
But to help it evolve.
To reach its full potential.
And
to, you know,
hopefully
it'll take us along for the ride.
Hopefully it'll take us along for the ride.
Take us along for the ride.
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah.
But I think someone made the point that, you know,
yeah,
hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Like, we can't just hope.
Yeah.
We can't just hope that AI will be good.
Right.
We have to
be proactive.
We have to be proactive. We have to be intentional
yeah.
about how we develop it.
How we use it. Yeah. And there was also this this argument about
the importance of the U.S.
The U.S. taking a leadership role.
Taking a leadership role in AI development. Because